Nice here in Philadelphia to be drama free. Like we're literally drama free with our Sixers, with our Eagles, kind of even our Phillies. It's just so nice to not have to worry about that. We got a jam packed episode today. We got Sixers talk. We've got Eagles talk. We got two great guests coming on this show from Philadelphia Sports Network, Corey Nidoh and Justin Crosby. We got so much power rankings are released for this week. Lots to get into. Trending in the AM is live with your thoughts and opinions in 30 seconds.
Fourth and goal.
And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. We're live, Facebook, YouTube, you know the drill. Hit those like, share, subscribe buttons. It helps greatly in the support of this show, and it's free to do. Anything you can hit like, share, subscribe. It will go a long way, and make sure you get your comments in as we talk a lot of different things today because this show is driven by you, the fans. I am your host, Phil Stiefel. You can follow me on all social media platforms. Right there, you see it at Beard of Knowledge, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. You can find me if I'm there. You can find me right there on that platform. I'd greatly appreciate the follow as well. And we got lots to talk about today. We got two great guests coming up. 8:15, Corey Nidoh, new Eagles writer, will be joining us. And then at 9 o'clock, you guys asked for him, Justin Crosby, Sixers reporter for Philadelphia Sports Network. He will be joining us on the show to talk the big Sixers-Celtics matchup tonight. So we got lots to get into, and I've got my power rankings at some point in the show. So much going on. I can't wait to watch football stress-free this weekend. Yeah, like we're drama free, but it is nice now to have a little stress free weekend, Jeremy, for sure. No Eagles, nothing. This is the honey to do list weekend, right? This is the weekend to get the chores done around the house, to do some family stuff. No Eagles to distract us. It is great. Guess who's back? Yes, and I want to get into this Carson Wentz thing here for sure, Mad Chatter. Um, it is the beard that binds us. I like that. I like the way that sounds. Look, so yes, Mad Chatter bringing it up here in the comments. Wentz is back, and he's using the Eminem lyrics there. Nobody's ever done that before. I'm not really worried about Martavius Bryant being back. That does nothing for me. But the Carson Wentz thing, and I want to bring this up, and saw it on Twitter. I kind of quote tweeted and said my piece there. I'm going to say it here. It was a big hot discussion in the Philadelphia Sports Network group chat as well, the Eagles group chat portion of it, about a tweet that was put out by one man named Rob Motti. And a lot of you probably know Rob Motti. He's a very well respected um, reporter for the Associated Press. He's worked at 97.5. He's worked all over the place. Um, and he put out a pretty insensitive tweet, in my opinion. We're going to get to that in a second. Question or comment from Pick Six Brett. Eagles should use Julio as a tight end in the red zone. Um, Pick Six, or Brett, or however you want me to refer to you. It's not the most insane thing in the world. I suggested this Monday on the show. He is not a tight end, and he's not going to block like a tight end. He's not going to line up on the line like a tight end. But a lot of the routes that Dallas Goedert runs and a lot of the targets that Dallas Goedert gets, I am 100% going to Julio. When the sets that Dallas Goedert lines up off the line of scrimmage, I am 100% okay with Julio doing that. And I think he's more than capable of doing it. And especially in the red zone, even before Dallas Goedert got hurt, I think he should have been, being used in that situation anyway in the goal line because he's still a big, strong body. Might not have the speed that he once had, but I think it's funny. I thought about it. I talked about it. And then I saw somebody posted on Facebook. They just in one of the super fan groups, and everybody was crushing them because they posted it in a weird way. But yes, Cowboys now have 3 XFL starters. Wide receiver Turk. Who cares? Yeah, who cares? So anyway, I want to get to this Rob Motti tweet for a minute before our guest joins us in a few minutes here. Um, Rob Maaddi yesterday, who I respect. I respect Rob Maaddi a lot. Um, and he's given me some advice. I've had him on this show years and years ago. We've messaged each other back and forth a few times. And Rob Maaddi, I'm going to share his tweet on the screen here because I think it's pretty insensitive of him because Rob Maaddi is a man of faith or claims to be. Rob Maaddi is very religious man. He talks about doing things the right way all the time. And Rob Maaddi has told me before, in the past, like make sure if you want to be respected, and don't want to do things the hot take clickbait way, you got to do things the right way, and you'll eventually get noticed. You'll eventually get what's coming to you. And Rob Maaddi's obviously a very close man with Carson Wentz. And after the news that Carson Wentz signed with the Rams, which I think is great, great opportunity, he put this tweet out there. New Rams quarterback Carson Wentz once threw for 4,000 yards, blah, blah, blah. Cooper Kupp won't have to worry about Kupp anonymously calling him a bad teammate because he prefers to do Bible study over doing shots with his receivers. And I thought this was extremely insensitive of him and extremely wrong of him because everything that Rob Maaddi talks about in life is doing things the right way. And this is such a first and foremost, this is not what the problem was with Carson Wentz. And we are finally in a place in Philadelphia sports where we are drama free. And here goes Rob Maaddi, who doesn't believe in clickbait, who does not believe in doing things a certain way, going out and clickbaiting and stirring the pot in Philadelphia sports. And it's kind of insulting to me because it goes against everything he's told me to do and everything he's told me to be like and everything he preaches that he's like. This goes against it. And I'm really shocked by him that he went out there and did this. And I'm going to pull it off the screen. We don't need to have it up there on the screen um, any longer. But it just goes to show that everybody keeps falling in these traps of saying hot button things like this. And first and foremost, it's not even true. Like it's not that Carson Wentz didn't want to do shots. There's so much more to it than that. But isn't it great as a Philadelphia sports fan that we shouldn't have to worry about that stuff anymore? The Carson Wentz drama is behind us, or should be. The Ben Simmons is behind us. James Harden is behind us. We get to talk about sports, the X's and O's from Eagles Dallas. We get to talk about the X's and O's of the Sixers Boston Celtics tonight. That is what we are now in Philadelphia sports. The drama is gone. And I was very shocked that a man like Rob Maaddi would put out a message like that. Back to the Julio has the size, but this would mean a major change in his usage as a receiver, usually a yak to the end zone guy. Yeah, I agree with you on that. That's fair. Good morning, Peanut. How you doing today? Watch our fan base turn on the Sixers if they lose to the Celtics tonight. We're gonna get into that with our guest when Justin joins us at 9 a.m. I could bring that back up when he joins the conversation for sure. Nick Foles was almost retired to be a preacher at the same time, and he was a very liked teammate. Um, it's a weird take, and not as a Philly fan, man, Chatter, I can't get into all the details about it, but I will throw it out there if you want to learn a little bit about what really happened. Google search from 2022, an interview with Darren Sproles talking about Carson Wentz as a teammate, and there's some videos of him in the locker room after the Super Bowl victory, just not happy. He was just very disappointed that someone else led the team to a Super Bowl victory instead of him. Wentz is still a good enough quarterback to be with the team. He is. I was shocked he wasn't on a team already. With all the bad quarterback play in the NFL, it's shocking that he hasn't been a quarterback. Um, but wherever Carson Wentz goes, he draws controversy to him. And the Rams, I mean, it's a great place for him to be. He can back up Stafford. Maybe later in the year, they'll give him a chance to start when they're out of the playoff contention, whatnot. If Matthew Stafford goes down, they got a viable backup option. It's a good place for him. It really rubbed me the wrong way. And this is not an algorithm conversation. It's gonna to build anything. It just rubbed me the wrong way when a guy like Rob Maaddi put out an insensitive, unnecessarily wrong comment. That it is just I get supporting your friend Carson and supporting another man of God in Carson, but you made a post that was factually incorrect. Everyone's proven that it was factually incorrect, and you don't even take it down. It was just something shocking, someone with his reputation that I wouldn't expect to put out there. I wish Carson nothing but success. I have zero hate for the guy. Peanut, I agree. I mean, I've said it before. I haven't burned my Carson Wentz jerseys. I haven't turned them into AJ Browns or anything like that. I got them, and there will come a day when will rock my Carson Wentz stuff again. You know, He- we do not win the Super Bowl. Like if he was upset that he didn't get to win the Super Bowl as the starting quarterback, you know, on the flip side, we don't get to that Super Bowl without him. He was the perennial MVP candidate that year before he got hurt and missed the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season. He was the guy. So I have nothing but love for Carson Wentz. Did his tenure end here the wrong way? Absolutely. Did he do things the wrong way? Probably. But he was still a great quarterback. And hell, in 2021, the Colts getting rid of him after he had a 27-7 touchdown to interception ratio that year for them, missing the playoffs by a half a game, I think was a shame. And then in Washington, I don't blame him for Washington because Washington is a train wreck. I just feel bad that we are as a Philadelphia sports fan base as a whole, we are in a part of our time right now where we are pretty much drama free. And for somebody, Rob Motti, who's worked in Philadelphia for a long time, to go out there and stir the pot and create controversy where there is none, which is pretty shocking to me, pretty unnecessary to me. And honestly, like I said, from some of the things he said to me personally, very uncharacteristic of him. Wentz was not going to throw the perfect game, 400 plus yards like Foles. You don't know that. Um, Nick Foles wasn't that great of a quarterback. He just got hot at the right time. I really thought Carson was going to be in Philly forever. Dude, I used to use the hashtag Wentz is elite. He was right up there, top 4 quarterbacks entering 2020 for me before the collapse happened. It's a shame it did. Yes, he does look like Prince Harry. I've said that before too. It's hard to see these guys as 23 to 25 young men. I wasn't mature at that age, and I didn't have millions of dollars in national attention. Yeah, it's hard for any young player in any sport to handle that, and that's what makes Jalen Hurts so special. Jalen Hurts got the money, had the success, gets the national attention, and what does he do after he loses the Super Bowl? He calls one guy by the name, lists this little semi-famous guy named Michael Jordan, and says, "Yo, Mike, how do I, handle this stress, this pressure, this money, this attention that I am getting?" Instead of enjoying it, he went out and learned how to be better at handling that situation. And I think that just is part of what is so shockingly great about Carson Wentz or Jalen Hurts. Our guest is now in the background studio, so we're gonna pause the questions for a second here. We'll catch up on them in a second. But joining me on the I Have No Sponsor hotline guest today, the new writer for Philadelphia Sports Network. Pardon me if I say this wrong. Corey Nidoh.
No, you're right on, Phil. Appreciate it.
Corey Nidoh, welcome to the show. Welcome to Trending in the AM. Um, Glad to have you part of the Philadelphia Sports Network team. For anybody that doesn't know you, kind of give everybody a little background on who you are. You're covering the Eagles for Philadelphia Sports Network, obviously, but you've got a pretty lengthy list of things you've done so far in the media world.
Yeah, so I started in minor league baseball as a play-by-play broadcaster. Still doing play-by-play in the Philly area for a lot of the major universities, Drexel, Temple, St. Joe's, doing play-by-play for various different sports. Was in minor league baseball for quite some time, and then the previous 2 years worked at a television station down in Maryland, covering high school and college sports, anchoring, play-by-play reporting. So I pretty much have done everything. And when this opportunity opened up with Philly Sports Network to kind of get my writing cap back on, wanted to hop on board. You, Liam, everybody on the team, they've done a fantastic job building up PSN, and they've been so welcoming to me and the other new writers that Liam and the staff have had joined. So I'm really excited for the opportunity and excited to keep working with you guys and see what we can do here, because as we all know, Philly sports, there's nothing better.
There is absolutely nothing better. And of course, I knew there was going to be comments. I did nail the name pronunciation. Okay, guys. I did practice. I did make sure. There is a reputation of me on this show of being very poor job of pronunciating names. And everybody will, I guarantee there'll be at least 15 comments in the next 20 or 30 minutes about Albert O's name pronunciation on this show. Just to forewarn you, if you see something that says Aqua Bowman, supposedly I called Albert O the day we got him Aqua Bowman. I don't
That's
remember
funny.
it. No one has pulled the footage to prove me wrong there, but supposedly that's what I do. But you say there's nothing like Philadelphia sports, and let's get right into the Eagles. You're obviously covering the Eagles with PSN. Um, the title of the show, it's a drama-free era right now going on in Philadelphia. These Eagles are 8-1 for the second year in a row at this point of the season, and while they haven't looked perfect, they're still 8-1. What do you think has been the key driving point behind this team's success so far?
I think they just know how to win. They're finding ways to win games. It's not going to be like last year. Let's face it. Last year could be one of the most dominant teams we've seen in Eagles history. I mean, they were blowing everybody out. That's very rare in the NFL. Most of these
Mhm.
games are decided by one score. And the good news for the Eagles and fans, they are winning those games. And yeah,
Mhm.
you can say, hey, it's a coin flip. It's about to, it's landing on heads for us and it's going to go the other way and land on tails. That could be very true, but they have the guys in the locker room that know how to win. They are hungry to get back to the Super Bowl. We know how hard that is in just its own right. And we always hear about the Super Bowl hangover. Well, this team, yeah, they may not be playing their best football, but they're finding ways to win. They beat the Cowboys, they beat the Dolphins, two of the better teams in the NFL. Now they have a much needed bye week to recoup, get healthy, and kind of shore up that defense. That's a little worrisome the way they've been playing. But I think when you play close games, you learn how to win. I was in minor league baseball, as I mentioned. The last team I worked for, they had a ridiculous record of like 48-12 in one-run games. It was incredible. It helped them win the league championship because the final two games were decided by one run. So they knew how to handle the adversity. They knew how to handle the pressure. And look at Jalen Hurts. I mean, he's just a stone cold assassin. He just does not get phased. And I would take him over any quarterback in the league right now, even with a banged up knee. So I think that's why they've been so successful at 8-1.
You actually, your answer kind of brings up a really interesting question. I haven't even thought about it till just listening to your answer there. So I don't even have an answer because they're winning these close games because of the adversity they're facing, and they're still 8-1. And then based off of what you said, based off of how well they won by double digits every game last year, even though statistically it's not, is Jalen Hurts actually having a better season this year than he did last year? At least because he's got to face so much adversity and they're still coming out on top. That leadership, those intangibles are kind of showing through even more this year.
No, I agree. And even early in the year when people were freaking out about the turnovers, rightfully so, he was turning the ball over too much in the first month of the season. However, if you look at his stats side by side, and I ended up writing a piece on this on PSN, they're eerily similar. If you look at all the major categories, he is having the same season as he did last year. So I don't think that's an issue at all. And I've been very impressed with his ability to pass in the pocket. He's forced to stay in the pocket. He's climbing up, going through his receivers, and when he has to run, he's running. But he is doing everything he can to win games for this team. He has that mantra. You can tell in the locker room that these guys just absolutely respect him. He's tough. When he went down that Dallas game, I said he's done. I said this knee injury is more serious than a bruised knee. I didn't think he was going to get back up. What's he do? He goes into the locker room, probably gets some treatment, and then comes out in the third quarter and just orchestrates a ridiculous drive for a touchdown. So I think he is on the MVP caliber level that he was last year. If you look at some books, it's still Mahomes. I get it, but I don't know. If Jalen keeps playing the way he does, I think he might be able to notch that first MVP.
Yeah, I mean, almost feel like it's a little disrespectful that people aren't talking about it just because of the turnovers. Because let's be honest, and Marshawn's saying, we faced an alarming amount of adversity this year. The turnovers specifically, and we'll get into the defense in a few minutes. Um, Even with the turnovers, the fact that they're able to pull this off, I saw a stat. I forget the number now. That you know, very few teams go 8-1 back to back years to start a season. And the fact that he's able to do it with the turnovers, with the adversity they're facing, with the knee injury, which I kind of feel like the knee injury has been banged up a lot longer this season than people realize. I think it might have even come in week 1 or 2, Patriots or Rams or something like that. But the fact that he's being able to play through it just shows what kind of a leader. Because look, I don't want to get deep into it anymore. I said my piece about the Rob Motti tweet, at the beginning of the show there. The controversy is not there. We're moved on from that. It just goes to show how much of a leader Jalen Hurts really is. And I don't think that's taken into account enough when you're talking about the MVP voting. They look at the touchdowns, the interceptions, how many yards, and whatnot. They don't look at the leadership factor. And I think people and voters and odds makers should look into that a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. They call it the X factor or the intangibles, and Jalen has all of them. There's no doubt about it. He's won at every level that he stepped on the foot of a football field. So, I think the Eagles and the Eagles fans are extremely lucky to have Jalen Hurts as their quarterback. Did we all know what he was going to be when they drafted him? I would say no. I think there was a lot of confusion and even some anger as to why they were drafting Jalen Hurts as early as they did. And man, look at it now, a couple of years later, and it's paid out swimmingly. I know you talked about Carson Wentz in the opening of the show joining the Rams. I'm surprised he signed with somebody. I thought his clock was certainly ticking, and I think this week was the final week where somebody could sign him. But the Eagles, they're getting it done, and that's all that matters. This isn't college football where you get more style points for blowing out a rival. A win is a win. If you win by 30, if you win by 1, it's a victory. And you listen to any player that plays the game, they tell you how hard it is to win on a week-to-week basis.
Mhm. Marshawn with another great comment, bringing this in, and we talk about the adversity. You know, a win is a win. I mean, all we hear about is how great the Cowboys are in losing effort. Sunday. So let's talk about the team and where they're at now. Coming off of that big win, because I think it was a must win. I think it was a very important win on Sunday against Dallas. Just to not only for our momentum going into the bye, but also to kind of stop some of the momentum Dallas has. Why? What's your take on the lack of positive attention that this Eagles team gets as a whole? I mean, all the talk right now is Dallas is the better team, even though they lost. Dak threw more yards, even though they lost. The refs. It's kind of nauseating to an extent. But what's your take on that situation? What the Eagles would have to do to finally kind of change that narrative a little bit?
I'm not sure if they can change that narrative, Phil. I mean, it's just the underdog for Philly. I mean, the national media wants to talk about America's team. It's the Dallas Cowboys for whatever reason. Good, bad, and different. You've got talking heads like Skip Bayless who loves his Cowboys and it generates clicks and it generates views. I personally can't remember the last time I watched one of those shows on ESPN. It's just tough. Even with LeBron James and the Lakers, nothing against LeBron James, but there's other teams in the NBA. There's other stars in the NBA. But, going back to the NFL and the Eagles, I don't know. I mean, the national talk is they're not that good at 8-1. I mean, did you see the ESPN FPI rankings yesterday? They have the Eagles as the 7th best team. Now, apparently the parameters are that's where they think they will finish based on the rest of the schedule. Okay, I'll give you that a little bit, but still 7th. I mean, I think they can beat the Chiefs next Monday night. I think they can beat the Cowboys again. They can beat the Bills. This team hasn't given us any reason to not believe that they have a chance to win. Are they going to win? I have no idea, but I'm not going into any of these games in this gauntlet and say, oh, no, they don't have a chance tonight. They're too good. So I don't know what's going to turn the national talking heads into respecting the Eagles. I thought it was hilarious that Michael Irvin and Skip Bayless, they were saying how they're a better team and the game was a moral victory. And Michael Irvin says you play games to collect information. That was totally new to me. I thought you play to win the game. But hey, everybody's got excuses. I like that the Eagles are just putting their head down. Week after week, they're finding ways to win, as I mentioned, and we'll see what they do at the end of the season. I think they are obviously the favorite to represent the NFC right now for the Super Bowl. I don't think the Niners are better. I'm not impressed with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. That offense certainly is not clicking the way it used to. They're lucky.
Is it crazy to say the Chiefs defense is scarier than the Chiefs offense at this point?
No, I completely agree with you. I mean, this is exactly what they're doing right now is the defense is winning for the Chiefs. If that defense was mediocre, I don't know if we'd even be talking about them right now.
Right. So let's look at the team now. One of the big concerns, and you already mentioned the defense to an extent. Obviously, we got a tough schedule. Chiefs, Bills. Even though the Bills are kind of down, they're still a great team. 49ers and stuff like that. The Eagles defense. We talk about the team being better than people perceive them nationally. I actually perceive the Eagles defense a little bit better than the Philadelphia fan base does right now. The defense has been rattled with injuries, banged up players constantly, moving parts coming and going, and the way Sean Desai has been able to make adjustments throughout the game, at halftime and whatnot. the amount of times that this team has given up one touchdown or less in the second half of games. Do you think we're being too harsh on this Eagles defense? Because these games are close, but in the end of the game, the defense is making the plays when necessary.
I think it's a little harsh only because we are stacking everything up from this season to
Mhm.
last year. And I don't think a lot of fans are able to enjoy this season as much because they know that this team probably could be playing better. But
Mhm.
look at the defense that they came into this year with. They lost a lot of pieces. Javon Hargrave was a force on the defensive line. No TJ Edwards. Gardner Johnson, he was a big part of that secondary. I know he was injured for a good amount of time, but he was a baller. I mean, he just absolutely hawked the ball out of the air. And I thought he made Slay better. I thought he made Bradbury better. And Sean Desai has been working with a hodgepodge secondary for most of the season. I mean, it was absolutely carnage on that last drive for Dallas with Slay going down, Bradbury going down, and you're throwing rookies out there and just hoping and praying that they got the job done. Luckily, they were able to bend but not break. But I do think that the secondary needs to tighten it up. Kevin Byard is still trying to learn his way. I feel like he doesn't look very comfortable. He's a very good player. I followed Tennessee for quite some time. I think he can be a really good back end piece for this defense and help out Reed Blankenship. I think they need Bradley Roby back in the slot corner. That has been a big bugaboo for this team. I like some of the plays I've seen from Eli Ricks and Sidney Jones, although those two were overmatched by CeeDee Lamb, and that was to be expected. You're looking at rookies against arguably one of the top 10 wide receivers in the league right now. So, CeeDee was going to get his regardless. Almost 200 yards. I don't know if I want to see that again, but the secondary needs to tighten up. I'm a little worried about the middle of the field. They gave up a lot of yardage up the middle of the field, and the only weapon that the Chiefs have that everybody's going to be worried about, obviously, is Travis Kelce. And where does he make his money? In the middle of the field. So it'll be interesting to see how Sean Desai and this defense game plan with the extra week to try and nullify Travis Kelce, who is going to want to have a big game because he was held absolutely in check in Germany this week.
Yep. That's actually a great point there because I wanted to talk about the injuries on this team, the recent ones, the Dallas Goedert one, but also Nakobe Dean went down, on Sunday. And I don't know, like, I mean, Nicholas Morrow, while Dean was down the first time this year, had a pretty good run. And you bring up Kelsey. There was at some point early in the season or maybe training camp, there was talk for these games against tight ends like Travis Kelsey and whatnot about sliding someone like James Bradbury over to cover the tight end. I think we saw in camp that happen a few times. Do you think Sean Desai has it in him to make that kind of adjustment and put maybe a James Bradbury or a Darius Slay on someone like Travis Kelsey? Because obviously we know, and look, and this is not a knock on Nicholas Morrow or Zach Cunningham. They've played well this year. Nicholas Morrow when he's had to fill in, but I don't think they're at the level to be able to keep up with a Travis Kelsey out there.
No, I agree. Not many linebackers are. I mean,
No,
that's what makes Travis Kelce so impressive. He's basically an oversized wide receiver, and he is one of the greatest mismatches in the game that we have seen. So, I think Sean Desai should look at everything. Any type of possibility to stop this connection with Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce, because this secondary, they've been playing a lot of basic cover two shell type defenses and, making teams drive down the field. I think they need to put pressure on Mahomes next week, like they did against Tua in Miami. They cannot let Mahomes sit there and just pick them apart because, yeah, naming the Chiefs wide receivers are a bit harder this year than in years past, but you're going to ask your aging cornerbacks and Slay and Bradbury, who, let's face it, they have shown some weaknesses as well as some great plays. I mean, Bradbury made a great stop on that one drive prior to the pass interference that let Dallas keep going on their last drive. So they still have the talent, but I think they're going to have to find ways to get pressure to Mahomes, just make him feel a little bit uncomfortable and just force them to dump passes off. Because if you let Mahomes throw, he's got the target, he's got the accuracy. It doesn't really matter who he's throwing to. It could be dangerous. So I would really like to see Sean Desai tighten things up. And however he does it, I'm cool with as long as it works.
Yeah, cool with it as long as it works. If it
Yeah.
doesn't work, you're not cool with it, right? It's been an interesting conversation on this show, and Mad Chatter saying Reed Blankenship is very mid. That might be a stretch, but I kind of think Reed Blankenship is kind of floating under the radar on the inconsistencies that he's had this year. I know he's been banged up multiple times and he's missed games this year. All the hype goes towards Sidney Brown in the slot because he's the new young kid. Reed Blankenship was a big part of this team last year, and personally, I agree with some of the comments that he's had a very inconsistent season so far. Do you think he's still, part of me though says he's still growing and he's still young and he's still inexperienced? Do you think the people that are saying he's mid or just not up to par are being a little harsh on him because honestly, he wasn't even part of this team last year. You know what I mean? Until the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson injury happened, he was a young undrafted free agent.
Well, that's the great thing about Philly fandom. It's usually what are you doing for me right now, Phil?
Yeah.
And right now you're right, and the fans are right. That he is being inconsistent play wise. But again, as you mentioned, he wasn't even part of this team last year. He was a really nice find and quite frankly a surprise to the secondary. Let him grow, let him learn more. And there's more tape on him now. So teams are dissecting the defense. They're probably picking up tendencies that Blankenship did last year that they can exploit. So I would pump the brakes on Reed. He's a young guy. He has the talent. He's shown it last year. He's shown it a bit here this year. But again, that secondary had just kind of been hodgepodge together. And the unit needs to be cohesive too. I mean, that's one of the more important parts of the defense is your secondary needs to know where everybody's going and everybody needs to be on the same page. So I would pump the brakes a little bit on Blankenship just now, but they got Kevin Byard back there to help him out. I think that's a great veteran that Reed can lean on and learn from. You got Bradbury and Slay as well to learn from as well. I know they play different positions, but give it some time. I think Blankenship could still be a nice piece here for the Eagles.
And as this comment from Martian says, he does come up big in the big moments. He might get beat in the second or third quarter for a big play, but when the game's on the line, I agree with that comment there as well. The other big injury this past week was obviously the Dallas Goedert situation, broken arm. And have they even said officially whether it's 4 or 5 weeks, or have they officially put him on IR or anything like that yet?
I did not see. I know they were talking about it the other day that he was going to get surgery ASAP.
And I didn't. Then after that, I didn't hear anything else about him.
I think the NFL tweeted out at least 4 weeks, so hopefully it's just a month, which would be great case scenario. I thought for sure it'd be more than a month. But it's a big blow for the Eagles. There's no doubt about it. He's one of the top tight ends in the league, pass catching and run blocking. I think a lot of people don't realize how vital he is in the running game, which is also another facet I'd like to see the Eagles kind of get going again. They have struggled a little bit in terms of productivity on the running side, but yeah, it's a big loss right now. But I guess the silver lining, 2 of them, he might only be out for a month, and they dealt with this last year, and they went 5-0 when Dallas Goedert left and lost time due to an injury. It was a shoulder, ironically, almost a year ago to the day he suffered the forearm this week. So they're able to find out who can step in their shoes, and that's going to be a big part.
That's a really interesting. Like you kind of gave me a segue to my question. It's like, how do we replace Dallas Goedert? And we've gone now through this. Now, 2 of the last 3 years he's missed 5 games. So this will be the 3rd year. If he misses 5 games this year, this will be 3 of the last 4 years that he's missed 5 games in a row in a season. But we were 5-0 in those games last year, which it's kind of weird. A player of his caliber that you can mask it as well as you can. And Jack Stoll filled in last year. Grant Calcaterra filled in last year. Now you've got, Albert O as, again, yes, Aqua Bowman. I see it in the comments. I talked so much in the offseason that the Eagles needed to do more at the backup tight end spot. But for some reason, the Eagles seem to have a lot of confidence in Stoll, in Calcaterra, now Albert O. Are you confident in that group? And I want to throw a second part of it in. I'm talking a lot on social media about Julio Jones. He's not a tight end. He's not going to play tight end. But a lot of those routes that Dallas Goedert ran, I kind of see Julio can run those routes. He can't do the run blocking. He can't do the tight end blocking part of it. But a lot of those line up when he lines up off the line of scrimmage, Dallas Goedert, you could do that with Julio Jones, can't you?
I would think so. I wrote that in my piece on PSN. If you haven't checked it out, definitely do so because you talked about some of the options.
When I read that me and you were on the same page.
We're on the same page. I think Julio could find a really nice niche here as that third wide receiver. He didn't play many snaps against Dallas, but he's physical still. And you heard his comments when he came into Philly. He said, I'm here to dominate. All right, Julio, well, this is your last chance probably to win a ring. So go out and dominate and figure out how to run those underneath routes and get open on those quick slants. For the tight end position, I don't know what they're going to do. I would like to see Albert O, who apparently you pronounce the name Oku Ebunam, according to his Twitter. So, for what that's worth. But I kind of like your pronunciation a little bit better.
I have no idea how I accidentally said that. It's been a running joke since the day he got traded here to Philadelphia. So
hey,
I
it's
don't,
not
I
an
don't,
easy name. But
no, it is not.
If you haven't seen what Albert O has been able to do with Denver the last 3 years, you should check it out. I mean, he's a physical tight end. He's 6'5", 260, can run well, can shake defenders off. So personally, I would love to see him be implemented in this offense. They have an extra week to game plan. Give him a few packages. I'm not saying he's going to be out there every snap like Dallas Goedert. Give him 4 to 5 targets. Just see what he can do. Get him involved. See what you have with him. You traded for him. Didn't give up a whole lot, but you have him on your team, and now it's a spot where he can possibly thrive. I think more realistically, though, it's going to be ending up a combination of Zacchaeus and Julio Jones, if I had to guess. And I'm not opposed to that either. I think Julio Jones could find a really nice place here in this offense.
What about Grant Calcaterra? I know he's obviously got the concussion that he's been dealing with, and I know they're taking it slowly with him because he's got the history from college. Last year, when Dallas Goedert went down, I know he was a rookie, Calcaterra, but I really thought he could step into the pass catching role because that's what he was known as. I think he had one catch for like 40 yards during Dallas Goedert's stretch out last year. They seem to be high on these tight ends. If Grant Calcaterra is healthy, have you seen anything from him? Because we haven't seen him used. I don't even know if he's got a catch this year on the season, and he's been active all but one game this year. So, is it a lost cause with Grant Calcaterra, or is it just a numbers thing with him?
I think it's more of a numbers thing. Again, Dallas Goedert can bring so much. He's not just a passing or a pass catching tight end. He can be in there to run block. So you got a jack of all trades, and he does at a high caliber. So unless he's injured, why would you take him out? And he's shown that he can play a majority of the snaps. Yes, unfortunately, he has been injured, for a lot of the time since becoming an Eagle. But when he is healthy, he's one of the better tight ends in the league. So I think it's a numbers game for Calcaterra. He did haul in a few passes last year. He had like an average of 16.1 yards per catch. Obviously, you mentioned that 40-yard haul that probably skewed those numbers. But, I remember hearing about him in training camp last year. Oh, you got to check him out. You got to check him out. Again, figure it out. Find a way to get him in. This bye week, I think, came at a great time. Jalen Hurts, I know, said it because he needs to be healthy, but this also gives this team a chance to hit the reset button. I'm always a fan of having a bye later on in the season. I don't like it too late, but I mean, This is pretty much smack dab in the middle for the Eagles. You couldn't have drawn it up any better for a bye week. So let's see what they do. Brian Johnson has some work cut out for him along with Nick Sirianni, but I'm excited to see how they get these other two tight ends in. I don't know if we're going to see a whole lot of Stoll in the passing game, but I wouldn't be surprised if Albert O at least has a couple of targets against Kansas City.
Absolutely. You're spot on. The buys at the perfect time. And I think the buys at the perfect time also, obviously, for the obvious problem, that's Jalen Hurts' knee. It's a perfect opportunity for him to rest it and get ready for the stretch run. So we've already said it. The Eagles are obviously, the best team in the NFC at this point, record-wise. They're the favorite to get back to the Super Bowl. I'm gonna phrase this two different ways here, because I ran a poll a couple days ago on social media about which AFC team scares you the most, if the Eagles would get to that ultimate goal, the Super Bowl again. But then I got thinking yesterday about it. I should have phrased it: what scares you more? One of the teams in the AFC in the Super Bowl, or one of the teams in the NFC that could stop us from getting to the Super Bowl? So kind of two-tone there. Going forward for the Eagles, are you more scared of one of the teams in the NFC overtaking the 1 seed or being able to match up well with us in a playoff matchup? Or are you more scared of one of the AFC vaunted teams like the Chiefs, the Ravens? I throw the Bengals into that equation as well. But what are your thoughts there?
I'm more worried about the AFC teams. The AFC is just stronger this year. I think from top to bottom. Again, last year to this year, if the Eagles get the number one seed, I don't see any team coming in and beating them at the link. I mean, I've been in playoff games. I'm not sure if you have been, Phil, but I mean, it is a jungle. It is absolutely insane and it's amazing and it's good in every sense of the word, but I don't see the Niners coming in. Yeah, they could have a chip on their shoulder. Brock Purdy's coming down to earth, folks. It was cool what he did last year. A shame that he got injured, because I'm always a fan of, I want to beat the team that my team is playing at their best. Yes, it was great because it was an easy pathway to the Super Bowl. I mean, let's face it, the Giants were a nobody in the first round that they played, and then the Niners couldn't throw the ball for the second half. So, yeah, it was great, but I want to see the teams play at its strength. That was what was so great about Dallas and Philly this past week. It was the first true time we've seen Dak against Jalen Hurts, and it lived up to all the hype. But the Ravens are no joke. I watched that game against Seattle. They dismantled the Seahawks, and they can run the ball. Lamar Jackson is back to his MVP style of play. He can throw the ball very well. I'm curious to see how the Ravens could run against the Eagles because we've seen it. These teams are not running against Philadelphia. They're just saying, okay, hey, we're going to show it, but we know that we need to pass the ball against this Eagles defense. So I'm a little bit more worried about any team in the AFC. I think the Ravens are the best team in the AFC. But don't turn your head on Cincy because with Joe Burrow healthy, they look like they are about to go on an incredible run here down the home stretch, and they're going to be right where they were expected to be before week one. So I'm going to go with
put
the
poll
AFC.
for you on the screen that I ran, and we're closing in on 700 votes here on this
Nice.
poll, and we're at 44% on the Ravens. They're leading this poll, without any question on it. But you nail it there. It's the Bengals are getting healthy, and to me, I think the Bengals are actually the scariest team because their defense is kind of like the Eagles. It's a good defense. It's not like over dominating like the Ravens, but the Bengals can actually keep up offensively with the Eagles. So you would actually have to win in that shootout with the Bengals. So the Bengals to me are the scariest team. I'm not saying they're the best team. I'm just saying the scariest team at this point for the Eagles matchup wise if we get to that ultimate point, down the line.
I agree with you because they have better outside weapons than Baltimore. So I do agree with you. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins looks like he's getting back on track with Joe Burrow. Obviously, Joe Mixon. So they've got a three-headed monster in their own right. So I agree with you there. And I think talking about shootouts, I think that's the way you have to win the Super Bowl these days. Everybody was like, oh, defense wins championships. And yeah, that was true for a very long time. But look at last year's Super Bowl. It basically came down to who had the ball last. I don't think either defense was going to stop them. Yes, I know that there was a PI called that helped the Chiefs continue the drive. Even if that wasn't called, I don't know if the Eagles were stopping Pat Mahomes on that drive. There's no way of telling, but defenses are important. But I think what's big with this Eagles defense this year is they're opportunistic. They find spots in the game like that last drive against Dallas to get back-to-back sacks, to push a team from the 6-yard all the way to the 23-yard line with no timeout. So, yes, they might not be as dominant, racking up 70 sacks this year at a historic pace like they did last year, but they're still finding spots and coming up with big plays. And guys, like Brandon Graham, he's like a closer now. He's only playing 20, 25 snaps a game. So you keep him fresh. Hassan Reddick is just an absolute animal off the edge as well. Jalen Carter is still the favorite to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. They've got playmakers. They just got to pick their spots, I think, in this defense this year.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the nail on the head there. You got to score to win the Super Bowl, but you do need your defense to be able to come up big in those closing moments. I saw a stat a few weeks ago about Hassan Reddick and his numbers in the final 2 or 4 minutes of football games, and it's really impressive that you come up, you could be held in check all game long. You got to come up with the big plays. Hell, in the Eagles Super Bowl victory in 2017, coming up with the strip sack of Tom Brady at the closing moments. That's what you need in your defense. Keep it within reach, and then come up with the big plays at the end. Real quick, we're talking to Corey Nidoh here, new writer for Philadelphia Sports Network covering the Eagles. We got to wrap up with him in a minute here. So, final thoughts, Corey. You got the bye week. Everybody's nice and relaxed now with the bye week, but then right out of the bye week, I mean, it's a juggernaut of a schedule. Where's your confidence meter, and how do you see us coming out the other end of this next 4 or 5 game stretch?
Yeah, I think they can go 4-1 in this
Okay.
stretch. I think they will trip up somewhere. A close game. Listen, they can very well lose in Kansas City next
Yep.
Monday. Arrowhead is a daunting place to play, but I think the guys are ready. They probably had this one circled a little bit more than Kansas City did. But it's hard to win a week to week basis, as we mentioned. So if you if you told me that they end up going 5-1 in this 6 game gauntlet, I'll sign up for that every single day. Even if they go 4-2, they've built up enough cushion where they can't afford to lose a game or two. So I wouldn't freak out if they end up losing on Monday night. The sky isn't falling. This is a good team. Just relax. It's not as dominant as last year. There's no doubt about it. But they're winning games. You got Jalen Hurts at quarterback, who's arguably the top QB in the league. You got the connection with A.J. Brown. Devontae Smith is starting to get back in the fold. It's going to be a fun, stressful 4 or 5 games coming up, but I mean, that's football. It's
Yep.
always close, and I think it's going to be a fun stretch.
So tell everybody where they could find you on social media and any other projects. I don't know if you've got any articles dropping in the next day or two on Philly Sports Network or any of the other work you're doing. Give everybody a rundown on what they can find and where for you.
Yeah, I'm at Corey underscore Nidoh on X now. I still call it Twitter. So
Whatever it's called.
on Twitter at Corey underscore Nidoh, Nidoh. And then yeah, I've got a couple articles coming up. Looking to write a piece on how Nick Sirianni should be in the discussion a bit more for Coach of the Year. We all know how that award is kind of handed out, so I don't know if Nick is going to have a chance. Obviously, it's usually given to the coach who improves their team the most from the year before. The Eagles are 8-1 again, so they're status quo, so to speak. But yeah, other than that, doing some play-by-play. I've got Patriot League Men's Soccer Championship coming up on ESPN Plus up in Boston on Saturday, and then I'm doing the Patriot League Volleyball Championships on ESPN Plus next weekend. So still doing the broadcasting. If you like college soccer, if you like college volleyball, very good conference, the Patriot League. So a little bit of everything, and feel free to give me a follow and reach out. I'd love to chat with you guys. The fans are great and excited to be a part of PSN.
Yeah, I mean you're pretty well. You're talking soccer and volleyball, man. That's a well-rounded broadcaster right there. Being able to cover it all. But Corey, I greatly appreciate your time this morning, your thoughts and your opinions this morning. You're welcome back any morning you're free. You're welcome to join the conversation here on Trending in the AM.
Absolutely, Phil. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks a lot. Again, that was Corey right there, trending in the AM. We'll do a reset now, a little earlier than normal, because we do have another guest coming up on in about 15-20 minutes time. Justin Crosby to talk Sixers. I do want to get to my power rankings. I know you guys love the power rankings, so I do want to get a chance to bring them up. Yeah, so round of applause for Corey, everybody. Corey's new to the Philadelphia Sports Network team, but that's why you got to be checking out the website every single day, phillysportsnetwork.com. Lots of great writers. We've brought on a lot of new writers recently. So it's great content every day on the site, and I greatly appreciate his time. But there's a lot of comments here, guys, that I missed. I was trying to pay attention. I hope Taylor Swift stays home for our on tour. Yeah, exactly. Look, I'm over the whole Taylor Swift thing. They gave Coach of the Year to the New York Giants. That was Sirianni's year to get it. Yes, absolutely agree with you on that. Let me see if there's anything else interesting that I missed back here. Honestly, if you had a comment that I missed, just throw it in the comments again, and I will address it here. Um, but yeah, that was a great work, great content from him. I love how at the end there he was talking about how you got to have the better offense to win the Super Bowl, but you still need a defense that can close. And that's the thing with the Eagles defense. They might frustrate us in the first half. They might play off ball more than we like. But the Eagles defense, for as bad as they are, at the right moments, comes up big. At the right moments, makes the key sack, makes the key stop on third down, forces the punt, does whatever, comes up with the big turnover or sack when it matters. And I think it is so important for this Eagles defense that they're capable of doing that. And I think Sean Desai, somebody got at it with me yesterday or a couple days because I said Sean Desai is better than Jonathan Gannon. And I'm like, first and foremost, I'm actually a Jonathan Gannon supporter. I actually think he did better than people realize. But Sean Desai makes the adjustments. I mean, the defense, it's unheard. it's undeniable that this defense has given up points in the first half of football games, but has been in lockdown, penitentiary mode in the second half of football games. Gave up one touchdown on Sunday to Dallas. So I think it's very big how that's played out over the last couple of weeks. And I'm gonna pull up a share screen here. I think it's time to dive into my power rankings this week for the Philadelphia Eagles, and there they are right now on the screen for you all to check out. And make sure y'all hitting that like button. We only got 11 likes on YouTube, 5 on Facebook. Hit that like button, that share button, that subscribe button. Justin Crosby talking Sixers will be up very shortly. But here's my power rankings and where I am at this point. I've got the Eagles obviously at 8-1, the only team with one loss at number one. But with a very shocking thing, I did, and Corey did jump in it. Um, I did put the Ravens at number two. I did bump the Chiefs down from 2 to 3. And I did jump the Bengals all the way up to number 4. And I know there's teams like the Jaguars and the Lions that have more wins than them. But I'm telling you, the Bengals are a scary, scary, scary team. Duck, there are only 3 difference between the Gannon versus the Desai defense. Desai adjusts and blitzes. Gannon was lucky enough to have a healthy, legendary defensive line and a D-back playing like gods. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he got lucky, so to say. I think that's pushing it. Jonathan Gannon, um, his scheme brought on. There's no denying that the Eagles had 70 sacks last year, and what that did for the secondary, making them look better, to make Gannon look better. But maybe some of it was also Jonathan Gannon. You got to give him a little bit of credit for that as well. And then back onto this list. So obviously, I got the Bengals 4. I think that's probably my most questionable thing. Well, there's a couple questionable things, but in the top end of this list, I know there's people that are going to say the Bengals aren't quite up that high yet because of their win-loss record, etc. But I'm scared of the Bengals. I think the Bengals are going to be a very good football team down the stretch, and if they're healthy going to the playoffs, they're going to be a very scary team in the playoffs. I put the Jags at 5, the Lions at 6, and the Dolphins at 7. I dropped the Dolphins down a lot more than most. The Dolphins are starting to shows leak some oil, I guess is the right way to say it. I don't know what to make of the line or the Dolphins because they put up 70 points in one game and then they lose a couple games that they should win. I'm not sure if the Lions or the Dolphins are that good or not. Like offensively, they are, but I just don't know. Obviously, I got the 49ers at 8. I put the Seahawks at 9. And yes, 10 could be the Cowboys. It could be the Bills. Hell, it could be the Browns. I put the Vikings in there just so I could say and congratulate the Vikings. I mean, with all the adversity that team's facing and faced this year, the fact that they're 5-4 right now, it's insane and it's great. And I put them at 10, not as an insult to Cowboys fans, but more so as a so that they get the attention they deserve. Because with what they've gone through to be 5-4 right now, the Vikings, I think they started 1-3 or 0-3 or whatever. To be 5-4 right now is a great, great testament of what they're doing there in Minnesota. The Cy and Gannon use a very similar scheme off the Fangio branch. Absolutely agree with you on that. Similar to the Schwartz defense too. And look, the Schwartz defense is the Browns. He's the defense coordinator out in Cleveland right now, I believe. They're pretty good. I'm actually I used to not like Jim Schwartz, but I actually thoroughly have grown to appreciate Jim Schwartz's defense. A little late to the party, but I am here. You missed a great interview with Corey Nidoh, a new writer for Philadelphia Sports Network, play-by-play guy throughout a lot of different college stuff and all. And we got Justin Crosby talking Sixers and Celtics here in about 5 minutes. So you're late to the party, but the party isn't over. We still got 35 minutes here on Trending in the AM. Again, hitting those like buttons and share buttons. Don't miss it. You can't win friends with Sixers. You can't win friends with Sixers. I'm not trying to win friends. I don't want any friends. I just want views. The Sixers is a huge game tonight, Matt Chatter. Boston Celtics, we've won 5 in a row. Haven't faced great adversity yet. It's a huge game for the Sixers. And all eyes in Philadelphia are on the Sixers right now with the Eagles being on bye. What's your bye? I think it's an interesting question. What is your bye week schedule like as a football fan when your team is on bye? Do you focus on other sports? Do you just randomly watch football, just enjoy football? Do you turn football off for a week? Like, what is your schedule? Me, I kind of focus my attention on the Sixers a little bit more. I just generally put on like NFL Network and watch the game cast, the red zone type stuff and all. Like I just kind of half-ass watch football when the Eagles are on bye. Gives me a little break from the stress of football. I'll bet less this week. I'll do less fantasy lineups this week. I just kind of take a little break. And I think that's kind of my bye week schedule. Um, don't say it. I'm not going to say it. I don't know why you're always trying to get me to say things, but not even like weird things. I don't get it. Um, is it? It's a song. I don't even know that. All right, we're gonna pull my power rankings off the board there. I love you guys' thoughts. I did on Twitter yesterday also a list of my top 10 quarterbacks power rankings at this moment. We're gonna save that for tomorrow's show, and we'll dive into how I rank the quarterbacks in the NFL. So we'll dive into that aspect tomorrow as well. Obviously, also we're going to talk the Sixers Celtics game tonight in a few moments, but we'll recap that game as well tomorrow. So when the Bills are on bye, you watch the Eagles in other good matchups. Yeah, I used to just pick one game and focus on it. Now I kind of watch a little bit of all. And I just kind of have it on in the background, Matt Chatter. I just kind of leave it out there as a kind of like whatever, an afterthought almost to an extent, so that I'm not, I don't know, kind of giving my mind a chance to reset for a little bit. Um, but anyway, any other thoughts on what he may have said, Corey? There, please drop them. I would love to catch up on some of these comments that I missed earlier. Yeah, Bradbury's been toast for real. I did bring up the thought of him covering uh, Travis Kelsey next week. Um, Marshawn here. I get that they have been horrible in the red zone, and they came away looking worse, especially in the biggest moments. Yeah, there was that. What do we got here? Because just like our two missed scoring opportunities against the commies, it's all fixable. Dallas needs to see the problem before they can fix it. Yeah, I think the story of Dallas having a moral victory again is just too much. But anyway, we got our next guest here. So we are going to switch gears here. We're going to get into the Sixers here. You guys asked for him, not me. I didn't want to have Justin back on the show. He was a little overrated in my opinion. But you guys asked for him. So join us on the I Have No Sponsor hotline. It's my man, Justin Crosby. How you doing, my man?
Good morning. Good morning, man. I'm doing good.
Yeah, yeah. Are you as fired up as Sixers Nation is for this? First off, who would have thought 7 games in the season it would be such a big game? But I
Right.
think Sixers Nation is really, really fired up for this game tonight against Boston.
Yeah, I think it's a good test for this team early on. I mean, you can look at it two ways, right? One, it's for the fan who is fired up but a little, hesitant. This is like if they lose this game, all right, let's calm the expectations. But also, if you look at it from the flip side, it's going to allow them to win or lose, understand where they are early on, understand what they really need, right? Because you can play all these other teams and it matters. But what matters is beating Boston in the playoffs, as we
Yep.
know.
Yep.
So the way this roster is made up now, better as far as having more wing defenders for those guys on that team. So we'll see how it shakes out. And, they play the Celtics twice in a week. So it'll really show them, how they stack up against them and go out and help Daryl determine, what they need to get.
So, and I think it's before we get into the team itself and what they might need and the new players and the James. Before we get into all of that, I think it's very important for fans to realize not to overreact. Like we're excited for tonight's game, but it's also only game 7 of the season, and we
Right.
still have all these moving parts. I think it's very important for fans to realize: do not overreact to
Yep.
if they lose tonight. If it doesn't go away the way you want, and I know the Wells Fargo Center is going to be jumping tonight, but don't overreact to the game, right?
You're right. And I agree. Like I said, it's early in the season. It's just a little barometer to see where they're at. They just it's just a barometer to see where they're at.
I'll just
So
leave that up there for the rest of the show. All right.
right. But I think overall, it's going to be rocking. It's going to be a good atmosphere. I think the Celtics will come in a little hungry because they lost to the Wolves the other night. Anthony Edwards completely dominated that game in overtime. Didn't matter who was guarding him. Jalen Brown, Drew Holiday, Jason Tatum. He just dominated them in overtime. So I think they'll be looking their chops to come in. I mean, both 5-1. Celtics look honestly head and shoulders best team in the league right now. So I think they're going to come and looking to prove it, and we're going to see, Nick Nurse's wonky strategies, come into play here.
So you were down at the Wells Fargo Center on Monday night, right? Covering the team.
Mhm.
Are you gonna be down there tonight?
Yeah, I will be. Yep.
You'll be down there again tonight. So how can Sixers fans, like, not thinking about tonight's game, but they've obviously won 5 in a row against some lesser talent, some shorthanded teams. How can you dissect what you've seen so far, knowing that it's not like we've been playing the Boston, because we're hyped. They're playing great basketball. The new pieces are being integrated right away seamlessly.
Right.
Joel looks great, but it's been against lesser talent. Like, when you're watching this game down there at the Wells Fargo Center, how are you taking it with a grain of salt? Like, how are you handling detaching the teams they're facing versus how good they look against those teams?
I just look at it like they can only get better, right? Like
Okay.
this is a new system, right? Completely new system. The ball movement, the cutting. If you look at the last 2 years or the last year and a half, just more pick and roll, everybody standing in the corner, and we'll figure it out. But even with this variation in the pick and roll, yes, people are standing around, but you see more cutting
Mhm.
off the action to depend on what's going on. Like I look at it as new defensive scheme, new offensive scheme. Like they can only get better as they get more comfortable. Nurse said it the other night, like they're trying to figure out how to play and what works for everybody. One thing that stood out to me when Nick Nurse said at his presser, I think it was against the Suns, Tyrese Maxey wasn't really aggressive. And he talked about how he's too good for him not to be aggressive and how he needs to learn how to attack and off his attacking be able to facilitate, not necessarily, you know, he's doing a good job of getting Joel the ball, getting Tobias the ball, getting Kelly the ball, like stuff like that, getting Melton the ball. But he has to learn how to do both things. And I think that's a growing thing that he's going to have to do in a learning curve. So if you just look at Tyrese Maxey, for him right now, he had the week where he averaged 35 or whatever the case may be. Then this past week, he averaged like 22, but he also averaged double digit assists. Only in the past week, I think he only had one turnover. So it's like he's trying to learn how to facilitate and score. And that's just something where that's going to come with he sees more different defenses, like how teams are playing them. They're playing them like off the pick and roll. They're trapping him when he goes right, but then they're going under when he goes left. So it's like he just has to learn how to do it. So I'm taking it as a learning curve for everybody, as they go through these early games, and they can only get better, in my opinion.
Look, I'm not one to shy away from throwing some digs at Doc Rivers occasionally whenever I can. But before we get back to the players, you mentioned Nick Nurse and how he commented on Tyrese Maxey about not being, he's too. I think the words he used were, he's too good
Yep.
not to be, great from the jump in a basketball game. Um, there is a glaring difference between this team under Nick Nurse, even though it's only 6 games and lesser opponents. Just the energy, the fun, the commitment on offense and defense. It's just a totally different team. And I was thinking the other day when I was watching the game on Monday night, how that Monday night game is kind of one of those games that under Doc Rivers, it might not have been a 30-point blowout. You might not have been able to have Joel Embiid not play the entire fourth quarter for, I think, actually the third time already this season.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, the differences between Nick Nurse and Doc Rivers are already showing. And where I'm being cautious with this team's early success, I'm not being cautious of my, enjoyment of the Nick Nurse style of doing things right now. Do you see the same? Like, do you agree
Yeah,
that maybe that Monday it wouldn't have been a 40-point blowout under Doc Rivers?
I agree. And I think more so like Nurse's just style of play. Like it's just different from what we're used to saying. Like, first of all, again, this could be honeymoon phase, but the team just seems like they're having fun, right?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
if you look at, I think even though Joel scored 48 in 3 quarters, they still had 37 assists as a team.
Mhm.
And I think off of, I think it was 51 total made baskets, 37 of them were assisted, right? So like Maxey had 11 assists. They're just Joel, I think he has 6 or 5 or 6. Like they are still passing the ball, and you can tell like guys are more engaged because they're more engaged in offense. Like they're cutting with a purpose. Like you even see guys like Kelly Oubre who's had a good offensive start, going to the like cutting to the dunker spot, waiting for a bounce pass from one of his teammates so he could dunk it. It's like those are the things like they're getting bought into. Tobias Harris is more engaged on offense and defense because he's actually being featured in the offense. And right now he's your third best guy on the team, and he's playing like it. He's been the most consistent Sixer thus far,
I
and
love I
he's
love
rebounding the
you.
ball.
I'm in love with you that you go right to, you don't go to some of the other guys. You go right to giving Tobias Harris, credit,
Yeah,
because
man.
I've been a Tobias Harris supporter since he got here. And it's so great and refreshing to see him playing. You say they're all playing happy, but they're also all playing confident. And the confidence that Tobias Harris has added himself, it's refreshing to see, and it's rewarding to see for the people that have stuck by him through all the all the criticism he's faced. And
Yeah,
some of the criticism he's faced is rightfully so.
for
You know, I,
sure.
I I can differentiate my fandom from the actual analyst side there. But Tobias Harris has been a major part of this early success of this team.
Yep. And again, I just think it's his engagement. Like you hear all this stuff in the offseason, like or in training camp or whatever, and you hear Tobias say, "Yeah, nurse said, he's going to get me more involved in offense more, or I'm going to be handling the ball a little more." And you see it, and you see what it's doing. Three things about Tobias that I like so far. I'll point out. Number one, for the most part, when he gets the board and he sees an opening, he takes off in transition.
Mhm.
This team has been anemic and allergic to transition in the last couple of years, specifically when Harden has the ball as well. He's running. This team is running. He's helping get them running. Number two about Tobias, he's rebounding very well. We talk about this team being a bad rebounding team, which they were for the last 2 years. And you see Embiid more involved on the rebounds, and Tobias is more involved on the rebounds as well. I love it. Tobias probably, I don't know, averages like 7 rebounds a game, but you see him down there fighting with the dogs trying to get the rebounds. And the third thing is, I mean, I add a little fourth honorable mention. His defense has been pretty well, but the last thing, that turnaround jumper from the mid post, which he feels most comfortable with, as you can see, has been automatic this year.
Mhm.
And you can see that because of the way they played last year, he never had those opportunities or felt forced. So he's getting the ball with 10 seconds left. He's rushing. All right, cool. Now Tobias, they running plays for him. He has the ball in his hands with 14 seconds. All right, he can pound, turn around, or pound, pass, whatever. And I think because of they are running sets for him multiple times in a row, it just allows him to be involved, and that's why he's involved on defense, and that's why you'll see him take the best matchup tonight. He'll be guarding Jason Tatum tonight for sure.
He's actually been that way defensively now for a little while, and people don't realize he's been taking the tough defensive assignments. And
Yep.
honestly, from when he got here, what, in 2019, to now, his defensive ability has massively gone up. He's definitely gotten better. He's put the work in. He's put
Yep.
the effort in to be not a great defender, but a very
Yeah,
solid defender. He's not a net negative on defense anymore.
for
Um,
sure.
you talk about the rotation and the people and stuff like that, and him being a part of it and all, but um, all the new guys, Nicholas Batum, Morris, Rocco, Martin, whatnot, they're slowly, being
Right.
integrated in. Short term, but also long term. Where do you see those guys fitting? And do you see one of those taking the starting role away from Kelly Oubre? How would you, if you were Nick Nurse, if you were managing this team, how would you handle this current, group with these four guys being at it?
So I think short term we'll still see Kelly Oubre
Mhm.
in the starting lineup, but I think honestly Batum is going to start, right?
Okay.
And when you look at it, I was thinking Rocco as well, but Rocco hasn't been really shooting as well. He hasn't been really shooting well for the last year and a half, honestly, but he's still a threat from out there, and he's still a solid 3-4 defender. So you can ask that from Rocco. But Batum, the way he started last night, the way he played on the Clippers for the last couple of years, he already has chemistry with Joel. You have another guy who's a willing shooter, and then that puts Kelly Oubre back into that six-man role where he can come in and just fire away. Not the fact that he didn't have the green light when he was starting, but he'll really have it with the bench. So I think that eventually Batum will, move it to the starting lineup, and then I think you'll see Oubre to the bench. But overall, these guys, like, they're really interchangeable depending on what you're looking at. And I think this is what we're going to see from Nurse, right? Where we didn't see from Doc, like adjustments, right? Like if a guy isn't having a good night, I mean, you're not giving up on a guy, right, throughout an 82-game season. But if XYZ doesn't have it that night, why not try to go to somebody else? And I think that's what you seen last night, or excuse me, the other night. I think we saw Pat Bev early on. Pat Bev, wasn't really, he fouled a little bit. So then they went with Jaden Springer, right? For the next little minute load. You'll see now where like Daniel House might have been playing early on, but now you see in Furkan playing, right? And this team needs more playmaking, and this is where Furkan's going to step in. Like, honestly, like he couldn't ask for a better position right now with James Harden gone, Pat Bev, point guard, but not necessarily a playmaker. Tyrese Maxey growing into the role. Melton's not really a playmaker. Embiid's playing some point. So it's like when Furkan's in the game, his job is to move the ball and shoot
Pass
threes.
he had on Joel on Monday night when he was cutting, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that little touch pass, that's Furkan in a nutshell there.
It is. And I think the thing about Furkan is he's making it harder for guys like Rocco or Marcus Morris or whoever else to get minutes because he's playing so well right now. And that's not the fact. See, the reason Furkan didn't play last year is because he wasn't shooting well and he wasn't doing those smaller things. You can't have him on the floor when he's not shooting well because his defense leaves a lot to be desired. It's just being honest. But when he's playing well offensively, you can afford that because you can hope that players like Joel or B-Ball Paul can erase some mistakes at the rim. And that's what you're hoping for. So Furkan is making it hard for like everybody want to put, including me, want to put Furkan in the trade machine to get somebody else, but he's making it very hard.
But see, and that's a great segue to what the point I wanted to make is that you had said before about this game is the starting of judging of what Daryl Morey might need to do. And everybody loves the trade machine. I hate the NBA trade machine. I hate it because it makes everybody a GM. But this is a super deep team as it is. Wouldn't you be more comfortable just giving this team 20, 30 games to find the right rhythm, find the right rotation? It's deep as hell. You can win a title with the three big guys of Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, with all this depth where you can go to the hot hand at any moment versus do you really want to already trade your 2 future first round picks and a piece of this puzzle, whether it's Tobias or whoever, just to bring in another star? It doesn't seem necessary to do that. I'm almost more comfortable just find the right rotation and let Nick Nurse. I mean, when Nick Nurse won the title in 2019, Pascal Siakam was just an up and coming star. A lot of those other guys on that team, OG, even Fred VanVleet wasn't a star at that point. You know what I mean? Nick Nurse is about having a team and a rotation and having options. That's his style of coaching. I'm more confident in that end, and I want to see that versus another big trade happen.
I think we'll see that, like you said, for at least until January. I think we'll see it play out till January. I think it honestly depends on how they play against these other teams. I also think it depends on what defenses do to Maxey as the season goes on, right? Can he work through those things offensively? And again, I'm not saying that he can't. Maxey has proved time and time again that he's going to do whatever it takes to get better. But it just will be interesting to see how these teams play him going forward. Like, are they going to let him shoot? They're going to, take the drive away. Is he going to go to the middies? Like, as he evolves. And I think that will determine, because right now, I can honestly say, Maxey is showing flashes of being able to be the second best player on the championship team. He really is. And when you have that, you can decide to roll with the two of them and you'll be cool. But if Maxey is not showing those signs of making a jump this early, and Daryl has all his analytics out and says that they have a, I don't know, 10% chance to win a championship, if they go get X player, they're going to do that. And I just think we have to see how they play. Like, I'm going to be really interested tonight, and I'll tell viewers and listeners to this right
I'm sorry,
now.
this is a great comment talking this. You know,
Yep.
the 2006ers traded everybody away from Mutombo, and that's like that. This is actually
Yeah.
Mr. kind of where my mind was going, and I think it's a fantastic comment from him.
I think tonight, look at how the Celtics play Maxey, and specifically Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday is not fleet of foot. He's a good defender, but he can't guard smaller guards. If we have to determine if Maxey can make his will felt and get calls, because the only way Maxey is going to play super well tonight is if he can get those calls when he's going to the rim. And I'll just say, watch that. And if he does well tonight against the physical defense that the Celtics is going to try to prove against, put against them, like, roll with the guys.
Yeah,
Because my only thing
agree.
is in the
And
playoff
I'm
series.
still, my eyes just keep going down to the bottom of my screen and see that comment from Mista, and I think Mista's spot on there. And I've totally lost my train of thought now. But you know, we everybody was so focused on Nick Nurse, and you know, what was he going to get unlocked from Springer or Paul Reed or these young guys that weren't getting regular minutes. But no one talked about what was Nick Nurse going to do for Tyrese Maxey or even Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris, those guys. And I think that's an underlooked thing because all the stars actually look better, you know, than they did last year under Nick Nurse because of his system, but because of his coaching and stuff like that. This team, the depth is great, but this team will only go as far as those three guys take us. And I think Nick Nurse has unlocked another gear in those three guys, and I think that's scary for the NBA.
I agree. Joel's more engaged on defense. He's actually trying to block shots at the rim early in games instead of turning it on in the second half. He's getting rebounds. Like, this team is offensive rebounding. Like, what is happening? Like, we used to give up all the offensive rebounds.
Yep.
Now we're getting them. Like, what is happening? And they're coming from guys who are not only Joel, but they're coming from Jaden Springer and Patrick Beverly and, you know, DeAnthony Melton, and like, it's these other guys, and that's effort. Rebounding is a lot of effort, and those guys are given the effort.
See, and there's another thing, and I know we've only got a few more minutes of your time, but last year, do you remember last year, Daniel House lost his part in the rotation. He kept himself ready, and then when the time was called a couple months later, he was ready to go.
Yep.
And I always said that's why Furkan was never given a shot, was because he didn't keep himself ready. You see already on this team under Nick Nurse what he's developing culture-wise, that whoever's called off the bench, Springer's played some minutes, then not. Furkan gets in for 2 games, he's ready to go. When House's number was called, he's ready to go. Nick Nurse has everybody bought in and believing. There's no drama. There's no controversy in the locker room, who's the leader and who's not. And, you know, no questioning Doc Rivers, you know, with Nick Nurse. You know, everybody's bought in right now, and I think that's a huge piece of it.
I agree. And this, again, building that culture from the beginning, like, just little small things, like the way they, you know, went to training camp and he wanted to have the energy high. He literally took the Sixers DJ on the road with them to Colorado for training camp, like just building a culture and trying to get the guys to buy in, like those little small things. And I think that all matters when everybody feels like when their number is called, they'll be given a chance to succeed. And I think that's why we see Jaden Springer. Much left to be desired on offense, but defensively, solid effort. Rebounding, really good effort. Blocking shot, excellent effort. So for me, it's like, again, one of those guys where Doc wouldn't have played Jaden Springer because offensively, he's really giving you zero. But Nurse sees the energy that he brings and puts him in the right lineup. Like, Jaden Springer is playing with Joel Embiid. So
I mean, it's a right. I mean, that was the whole title of the show today. That we're drama free in Philly right now. We're not used to being drama free right now. All right, so you're going down to cover for Philadelphia Sports Network tonight at the Wells Fargo Center. Celtics are actually the 2.5-point favorites. You know, on the road tonight. Do the Sixers win tonight? And if they do, X happens, which causes the win.
I do think they win tonight. And I think that we're going to get a really big game from Oubre. and Tobias. I think Joel would do his normal, like you can't even add Joel in this. Joel will do his normal thing. But I think Oubre and Tobias will be the keys to victory tonight. Their shooting, their quick twitch shooting, and their trigger, and I think that's going to be the reason they win. I do think it won't be a stress-free game. It will be a fourth quarter bar burner, and everybody's going to be holding on to their hats. So I do think that don't expect a blowout. I think if they win, it'll be in the last 3 minutes of the game.
Absolutely. All right, so I got to let you get out of here because I know you got things to do.
Yep.
Good luck tonight covering the Sixers. Everybody, make sure you follow Justin Crosby at Will Work for Sneaks. And I won't lie, it was just yesterday when I was typing up the show. I always thought your handle was Will Work for Steaks. And then when I was trying to type it in to my phone, I'm like, oh, it's not steaks, it's sneaks. Oh, that made a lot more sense there.
I like steaks
but
too.
I
So
yeah. I know you got to go. Great
Yep.
work as always. We're going to keep doing this regularly throughout the season
Yes.
here on the show.
Yep. Thank you for having me.
Thanks a lot. Again, that was Justin Crosby right there on the I Have No Sponsor hotline. Make sure you guys shoot him a follow because he does great work covering the Sixers. And he's down there at the Wells Fargo Center most nights covering the team for Philadelphia Sports Network. Some great comments here coming in. Let's get back to these. And I love this from you, Duck. That you can get more work done when there is less drama. That applies to the Phillies, the Sixers, the Eagles, the Flyers. It applies to any sports team, anything, anywhere, in any workplace. When there's no drama, stuff gets done. And you're seeing that with the Sixers as well as the Eagles right now. The chemistry is in place. The players are bought in, and the culture is being adjusted. It was funny. I was going through some old things, and I saw a TikTok that I did way back last year when Doc Rivers talked about a scheduled loss and what that does to a culture of a team. And that culture has been literally the fact that Nick Nurse has been able to take mainly the same guys, add in a few guys already after the start of the season in the James Harden trade, and get the culture turned around so quickly is not going to get talked about enough because it was literally awful, the culture in the city, for the longest time. What is up, Philip? How you doing? Guys, let's make sure we hit that like button. We've only got 14 likes on this video on YouTube, 6 on Facebook. I greatly appreciate it. Eric, great show. Thank you very much. Me and Art Justin are talking. We're going to make it a regular weekly thing, once a week, about 20 minutes a show. We're going to get him on since he's doing such great work covering the Sixers. It's going to be a regular thing, whether we have a set day or we just do it randomly based off the schedule every week. We are going to bring him in as often as possible. Justin is always knowledgeable and entertaining. He is, and I won't lie. I really thought his Twitter handle was Will Work for Steaks. I literally learned yesterday that it wasn't Will Work for Steaks. It is Will Work for Sneaks. I don't know where that came from, but that is what I thought. Yeah, Justin. Man, Justin has so many fans. I wish I had people that were such fans of my work, like people are fans of Justin's work, man. We got people constantly asking for more Justin, more Justin. I love it. I think it's hilariously great. I love this comment as well. Praise God, we don't have the drama. All guys are worried about playing ball. I love that. Eric, all I look at is so subtract Kawhi, Lowry, and Van Fleet, and add those guys. Yeah, I think this is a more talented team that Nick Nurse has right now. And I keep going back to miss this comment here, and it's so spot on. And it brings up the point that I don't want the Sixers making another move right now. I don't want them making a move in a month or two. I think this team is deep enough as is, and I'm going to save those assets, and I'm going to save those expiring contract slots for the offseason and worry about that after the season's done because I think this team, and somebody said, and I don't know where it is in the comments, someone said that they're the fourth best team in the conference, but could win. I think that this team is better than a top four. I think they are still right there with Boston and Milwaukee as one of the top 3 teams. I don't think the Cavaliers or the Knicks or the other teams in the conference can even come close to what the Sixers are capable of doing. So I'm letting them roll as is. I'm going to let Nick Nurse continue to add in. You just never know whether you're going to have, more. I saw somebody say, should Marcus Morris be starting? Justin thinks Nicholas Batum should eventually. I think it's crazy how deep this team is with the 4 additions in the James Harden trade. I will work for Steaks. I don't know where it came from. You can all hit him up on every time he does a podcast or post something. Just remind him. I think it's I will work for Steaks. You have the core 12. I got the core 12. I love you guys in the core 12 for sure. Justin probably wishes he had the stakes. Yeah. Eh, I don't know where it came from. I don't. I don't know where the I will work for stakes came from, but that's what I thought. We're into the final 5 minutes of the show. We will tomorrow spend a lot of time recapping the Sixers Celtics game. I'm going to stay laser focused on the game tonight after work. So we definitely need to talk about that game tomorrow. We are going to continue with my power rankings and with my NFL quarterback power rankings tomorrow as well, which I did not share on the show. Again, fantastic show. Yeah, $500 super chat, please. Yeah, always, please, please, $5 super chat. Give me five. Give me a $5. But anyway, I think this game is very big for the Sixers here tonight. But it is very, very important for Sixers fans not to overreact. If it does not go well, learn from it. Find out why it didn't go well. If it doesn't go well, if it doesn't go our way, what caused it not to go our way? This is just game 7 of an 82-game season. It's a big game. It's a good litmus test. It's a good measuring stick, but it's not the end all be all of this season. We are still in just the beginning stages of getting these new players and this rotation culture under control. So, it's insane, but it's great to think that we are drama free right now with the Eagles, with the Sixers. And it's so refreshing that we can actually talk about the Sixers game, the Sixers rotation, the Eagles players, and not, well, the drama. And again, shout out to Rob Motti for pissing me off last night with his tweet, an unnecessary thing, creating drama where there is none. To think about it, I have worked for steaks. I laid down a whole laminate floor for a living room and bedroom, and my cuz paid me in steaks and beer. There's worse ways to get paid. There's worse ways to get paid for sure. Um, as long as they were good steaks, as long as they were good steaks, that's all that matters. We measuring sticks now. I am not ready, and it's cold out. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is cold out. It went from like 70 yesterday to like 40 something today. Corey's saying Sixers winning this game. You heard it here first. I hope so. I think it's a little disrespectful for a 5-1 team at home going up against a 5-1 team that the Sixers are underdogs by 2.5 points. I'll probably throw a bet together, a parlay together for tonight. Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna, as Justin said, it's going to come down to the wire tonight. It is not going to be a 20-point blowout by any means. The Celtics are a good football team, a good basketball team, obviously. And I love his comment about will how will Maxey and Drew Holiday match up. It'll be a really interesting thing, and hopefully Maxey can get more aggressive and get more in the flow of the game sooner. I think that's the biggest challenge right now for Nick Nurse is getting Tyrese Maxey rolling quicker and earlier in basketball games. Not deferring, doing what he can do all game long right from the get go. What he said, Jordan. Hey, it's good. I like it. Let's hope for it. Let's hope for it. We're going to start the wrap up process here, though. We are trending in the AM on Philadelphia Sports Network. We've got to shout out Corey Nidoh and Justin Crosby, 2 excellent guests today. Tried to bring them in. We're going to work on some guests for Friday's show as well. Bye week. I'm trying to mix things up on the bye week here as we try to take a little step back from the stress of the Eagles seasons. Eagles can beat the Celtics at football. Probably. Although the Celtics, I mean, I'm Jason Tatum. What would he be? A wide receiver? Tight end? I don't know. The funniest thing is watching the media cover the train wreck Clippers. I'm trying to ignore the Clippers. That is all possible. I know. He did not give me a $500 super chat. You do know when you type in a comment, it's not a real donation. Mad Chatter. When he types that in, he's just encouraging somebody to do it. He did not give me $500. But yeah, the Trainwreck Clippers is like the guy from the Christmas Story movie trying to sell that tree. I love it. Love the movie The Christmas Story. But anyway, we're gonna wrap it up right there, guys. Great show. Make sure if you're watching on replay, you hit that like button, that follow button, the subscribe button. If you drop a comment on replay, I make sure I check it out. Without a doubt, y'all have a great Wednesday. Bundle up. It's cold out there. Everyone have a good one, and we will talk to you guys tomorrow. Hopefully, discussing a huge Sixers victory tonight down at the Wells Fargo Center. Y'all have a great day. We'll talk tomorrow. Go Birds and go Sixers.